Hello and welcome to all Lutes tuning in for another Mindful Monday. My name is Tamara Bodie. I am a doctoral intern at the Counseling Center, and today we're going to be talking about resilience and a little bit about the present moment. So I'll start with just kind of touching on the present moment. You know, when everything happened with COVID 19, I think a lot of people went into do mode and maybe crises mode. And now that things are settling a bit, you might be experiencing a little bit of getting tired or recognizing that you're wanting to retreat within yourself a little bit more. For some, it might even feel a little bit jaded about the saying, we're all in this together. I do recognize that the situation is particularly challenging, and it's challenging to different people in different ways. And part of just touching on the present moment is considering how you can have hope amidst acknowledging the reality of the situation. And one of the ways that therapists and counselors and mental health professionals help with hope is talk about the concept of resilience. Resilience is a personality trait, and it can also be built. It's essentially what keeps you going, a personality trait that keeps you going when there's no end in sight. And that's very true for what we're experiencing now. Psychologists have defined it as the capacity of a system. This can be a person, economy, or community to adapt successfully to threats, to functioning, survival, and development of the system. So just thinking about that is we actually have a lot of systems we're dependent on. You have your bodily system. We talk about that a lot in psychology and therapy and yoga, everything that keeps you healthy. And you also have these other systems like family, community, the government. And the situation really highlights how interdependent we are on these different systems. So if a system isn't healthy or lacks resiliency, we feel it. So when you think about resiliency, you can think about it a little bit like a bank account. So some people have more in their bank account, and some people have less in their bank account, and it changes all of the time. So sometimes you might have a little bit more in your bank account if you've been sleeping well, you've been eating well, you've been with your friends and your family, and you're doing well. So that's a situation when you're going to have more in your bank account. Situations when you would have maybe less in your bank account is when, it's finals week and you're feeling super anxious and super stressed, and you're spread thin or you're low resource. All of those things can really limit your ability to have resilience because the system isn't as healthy as it could be. So I'd like you to consider maybe ways to increase your bank account, your resiliency bank account on purpose. A lot of things that you can do are kind of daily. These things include mindfulness, exercise, calling a friend or family member, just on the phone. Even things like cleaning your house or listening to music can really calm your mind and settle some of the anxieties that you have going on. If you're proactive about creating that resiliency bank, it can help you in your bodily system, but it can also help the people around you regulate, because we know we are all interdependent when it comes to resilience. So I have a few questions just to kind of meditate on, and then I'm going to discuss a few other points and give you some resources and a script as well. I want you to consider what resiliency means for you. So resiliency for some people might be, do I need to exercise or eat well? If you're a very community-oriented person, resiliency might be for you is connecting with your family, your loved ones. So it's not me telling you what you should do. It's really you finding your own way that fills you and helps increase that resiliency bank account. Also, I want you to kind of think of a tough time and ways that you got through that tough time. So it could be, what internal characteristics you had to get through the tough time, or maybe even a tool that you had to get through that tough time. One thing I do is I follow the miracle morning. So I get up and I journal. And at the end of my journal, I do visualizations about what I want after kind of a stream of consciousness. And then I will do affirmations. And I know that sounds very woo-woo, but it's one thing that has got me through some tough times. So if you can create that for yourself or think about that, that might be really helpful. When you were getting through the tough times, what did it instill within you? Often people will say, yeah, like this thing happened and it was the worst thing ever, but it turned out that I actually got stronger from it, or it turned out that it shifted my career path or my educational path in a way that I never could have predicted. Just thinking about what kind of inner strengths are cultivated at this time. And then also, again, we're trying to acknowledge the reality of the situation is what was painful about that tough time that you had before. Consider perhaps the idea of being grounded or stable. What things make you grounded or stable? Those are kind of a little bit of food for thought. But I do want to also talk about some resources that I have found to be really helpful. And one of the books that I'm reading right now is from Pema Chodron, and it's When Everything Falls Apart. And I have a quote about it. It's extremely, I think, relevant and helpful if you're kind of at home and you have a little bit of downtime. It could be a helpful book. She's a pretty prolific writer. I'll read one of her quotes and then also talk about some of the resources that we have that I will send your way. So her quote is, learning how to be kind to ourselves, learning how to respect ourselves is important. The reason it's important is that fundamentally we look into our own heads and begin to discover what is confusing and what is brilliant, what is bitter and what is sweet. It isn't just ourselves we're discovering the universe. So I think that really speaks to maybe the present moment is, you're going to have things come up for you, and also understanding that we are a system. Resiliency is yours, and it's also a community and an economy and kind of a government system. So in that way, we're connected. A couple other resources that I really like to touch on, and I will have them down below. And we also have a link to the Calm app. The Calm app. So this is an app. It has tons of different meditations. Some are really long and some are really short. Some of the meditations are on things like love and kindness, like we've done before. And then some of the meditations are to help sleep. And they specifically have one, it's called the stability meditation. And I thought it was really fitting for the current situation. And that will be linked below as well. But you can go on there and check out all the different meditations. And also you can check out kind of some tools they have, some grounding tools, some basic kind of getting back into your body and your physiology tools. Again, below I have an ACT worksheet. So it's a worksheet you can kind of go through if you'd like about what to do in a crisis. And then I always want to point back to, as a PLU student, you have access to Loot telehealth. So if you're feeling really down or you feel like counseling would be really helpful for you right now, because you got stuff going on academically or at home, it's anything like that, then you can go onto the PLU website and you can navigate through or just type in Lewitt Telehealth, and you'll be able to get into a portal to get access to a counselor via Zoom. And that'll walk you through that whole system, which can be quite helpful. So that's pretty much all I have for you today, and I would wish everyone a good day and to be well.